Harvin packing was started in 1933 by Robert Kirkland and S.A. Harvin, and it was actually called Kirkland Provision. There was a fire in 1939, and after which time Mr. Kirkland did not want to continue in the business, and so my grandfather, S.A. Harvin Sr., bought his interest out and continued the business. In its founding, the idea had been that Sumter grew, and of course everybody was involved in agriculture and grew livestock, that it would be a good idea to have a sanitary central location for people to have their animals processed, and that's how the company started. Looking back, it's hard to pinpoint. I think more of the humorous stories that are told about perhaps bulls breaking out of livestock pens, or calamities in the building, or those types of things. Animals are unpredictable, and so there were a lot of humorous stories. Of course, there were a lot of farmers in the area who were row crop farmers who grew livestock as a means to supplement their income, and so a lot of older folks that I've met have remembered bringing livestock here and dealing with the company and dealing with my grandfather. Back then it was more about processing people's animals, country cured hams and fresh beef and pork cuts, fresh sausage, and they began to dabble in making some further processed items like smoked sausage and those types of things. Well, the old-time sausage makers did a lot of things through touch or feel or experience. They knew intuitively when things appeared to be safe or they were not safe. The regulatory environment, which has indeed helped the food industry, has made things a lot more specific. Things are controlled by temperature and time. Science has improved as far as an interest in identifying pathogens or things that could be harmful for humans if consumed. And the approach has gotten very scientific in identifying and reducing or eliminating these threats. In the not too distant past, 20 or 30 years ago, as you can imagine, there were a lot of independent grocers, general mercantile stores, country stores, and that was the primary source of business, were these stores that were spread out all over the rural areas of the lower 2/3 of South Carolina. That's where people counted on these stores to provide for most of their basic needs. Over the years, chain stores, the large grocers and large convenience store chains have displaced a lot of these smaller independently owned businesses. So there's been a lot more concentration in the, not so much the number of stores, but in the purchasing power of the stores and that we do business with. My father came into the business in 1972, and as my grandfather retired, and worked from 72 until the year 2000 when he retired, leaving my brother, Seth Harvin III, and myself to run the business. Never thought I was going to come back to Sumter. In fact, that wasn't part of my plan. We grew up in the business when we were kids, and I had two brothers that are both older. Every Saturday, we always loaded in the car with my dad and came down here, and we were cutting grass and picking up trash and washing trucks and cleaning restrooms and sweeping floors and whatever else he could think for us to do. Started working after school when I was 13 or 14 years old on the sanitation crew, using scrub brushes and steam hoses and cleaning the plant from after school till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And from there, did any number of things from loading trucks at night to driving trucks at some point in time or another, anything that needed to be done. I graduated from Clemson in 1986 and was sort of a difficult time to find work. Really didn't want to go to graduate school at the time. Was getting married and began working here and also looking for other things to do. And as it turns out, kind of gets in your blood, and I never left. So my brother was working with Cargill Grain in Minnesota and was not terribly crazy about the weather. We wanted to start a family, and he came home in 1987 or 88, and so we've been here ever since. The business has always been located on the corner of Ginyard Drive and McCrae's Mill Road in Sumter. The plant's been added onto in many ways over the 70 or so years, 80 years that we've been here. Originally, as you can imagine, it was a small facility. At that time, the smokehouses were detached in another building, primarily because of the risk of fires. There were some significant additions in the 40s, in the 50s, the 60s, and in the late 70s and mid 80s to the building. A lot of which was to keep up with the demands of regulatory inspection and those types of things to make sure the building was of a sufficient quality to produce a sanitary product. In the early 90s, Harvin Choice Meats purchased Williamsburg Packing in Kingstree, South Carolina. And Kingstree is a little bit unique in that it's a slaughter plant, butchering plant. While Harvin Meats focuses their interest in fully cooked products or heat-treated products, the plant in Kingstree is more about fresh products, fresh sausage links, cured bacons and those types of things, barbecue pigs. And at the current time, they're doing a lot of processing of organic, pastured, hormone-free, antibiotic-free animals for independent farmers. Well, I believe it's always been a steady support from the community. I believe people recognize the benefits of locally produced products and having a place where they can purchase these products or see them being made or have them made. So I've always felt like the community has been a good support for the business. Basically, through a broker network or a buyer network, we locate and acquire various cuts of meat which are have specifications that are known. And these can come from anywhere in the country, but they have to be from USDA inspected plants. We also purchase seasonings and packing materials and those types of things. Once all this product's received, we make batches of product, producing our own spice blends that are produced in-house, grinding, mixing, seasoning, chopping, whatever activities need to be done for that particular process. Then we use machines to stuff the product or do those kinds of operations to it, and we cook product and chill it, and then it is packed into various retail packages for consumption. We're sort of old school and make a lot of different things, which is unusual these days in the meat packing industry. Our bread and butter is we make a lower to mid-grade smoked sausage, and it means that it fits into a budget nicely. Doesn't have to taste cheap or to be inexpensive. We also make loaf products, old-timey stuff like liver pudding and souse meat and hog head cheese. We make hot dogs, hot dog chilies. We smoke meats like hog jolls and ham hocks and neck bones. We fry pork skins. And we also distribute a number of items that we don't manufacture but that complement what we do. It's probably the most popular thing we do is our gamecock smoked sausage red hots. I hear lots of stories. I'm always amazed. I'll run across people who want to share a recipe with me or tell me what they like to do with them and what their favorite thing is, but by far that's our most popular item. I eat a lot of it just sampling just to make sure things are the way they're supposed to be. But I really love to, believe it or not, put a smoked sausage on a hot dog bun and cover it up with my favorite condiments, and that's my go-to. Well, we distribute our products in basically the eastern 2/3 of South Carolina, and we still deliver these products ourselves to most of the stores independently. I mean, we don't go through a warehouse. It's our intent that the product get to the stores and be as fresh as we can possibly make it. Oh, full and part-time, we have approximately 54 people currently. Obviously, we have 5 salesmen and 5 or so truck drivers and some office staff. But the heart of any packing plant is the manufacturing, which is probably 30 to 35 folks who work in those areas. Well, we've always had a few interesting folks, some long-term employees who provided a good number of laughs over the years. I know this didn't happen when I was here, but I remember one of the old gentlemen that used to work here recounting a story about how 2 guys were in the livestock pen at one time with a particularly ornery large pig that they were trying to stun, and they used electricity to stun them, and they couldn't figure out how to do it. So finally one of them says to the other, says, "I got an idea," and says, "You sneak up in behind him and you grab him around the neck and then I'll shock him." Which Pop Yetis had to keep these 2 guys from electrocuting each other in the livestock pen, which was pretty funny. One of the other stories regarding the same other old gentleman, in 1972 when the big snowstorm hit, he had come down to the plant to fire the boiler to make sure we didn't damage all the pipes in the building, and by the time he got the boiler actually lit, he was snowed in the building and couldn't leave, which would be kind of distressing, I suppose. Well, obviously any company would like to grow, would like to see their employees prosper. There's some measure of success to do that. I'd just like for the company to be here and to be preserved for the future, to provide employment for local folks and to provide good products.